Welcome to Flow into Alignment. Do you struggle with Chaturanga and how did you be able to do Chaturanga? Do you wish you could be shown some modifications to be able to do Chaturanga no matter your strength level? You're in luck today. That's what I'm going to show you today for this video. Follow me as we go through the different modifications for Chaturanga. These are the supplies you're going to need: a rug, possibly a mat, a wheel, or a exercise ball, 2 or 4 yoga blocks, a wedge if you have sore wrists, and a bolster or 2 to 3 pillows from your bed. So join me today as I show you the different modifications that you can do to be able to achieve Chaturanga. Let's go ahead and dive into modifications for your Chaturanga. The first modification is actually a completely different pose. And it's going to be going from puppy pose down to your belly. So you're first going to start off on your hands and knees. If you hear any squeaking, that's my wood floor. When you're at home doing puppy pose, I would recommend that you get a chair where the seat of the chair touches the backs of your legs. That way you know if your hips are lined up with the knees. But what I'm going to show you today for puppy doesn't require that, because we're going to be moving very quickly through puppy pose. But typically, if you hold puppy pose, it's great to be able to use a chair to know where your hips are in space. So you're going to move from tabletop position. You're going to press your your shins into the ground to make sure that the feet don't pop up and your weight lean forward. You're going to walk your hands out, angling your head and torso down towards the ground, and then very quickly drop one elbow, then the other to the ground. Keep pressing the shins into the ground and slowly lower your torso down all the way to the ground. And that is your first Chaturanga modification. What if that was a little bit more difficult? So coming back up, if you couldn't walk your hands that far out, you're still going to place your hands a little bit in front of you, drop the elbows one at a time. And let's say you're here and your legs need to go further back. We'll just do that. Just slowly walk the legs further away from you as you drop your torso down. But what if your wrists are sore and you can't get that 90-degree angle? Let's use the wedge. So you're going to take your wedge, slide it underneath the yoga mat. That way you're not going to slip because the wedge isn't really sticky enough. Make sure that you may need to, if you are someone who does need to use the wedge, that you divide the wedge in half. So cut it in half, so that way your wedge can be the width of your mat. Because right now, my wedge does not extend to the edges of the mat, and you really need that shoulder width apart for your hands just to create space for the neck and shoulders. So hands on the wedge. You're going to slowly walk the legs out from under you this time. So walk the legs away from you and lower down one elbow at a time, slowly inching your way down towards the ground. And that can be the way you modify it for sore wrists. But you might not need the wedge. I had a lady who was coming and taking class for me who had really tender wrists. And she just did this modification for Chaturanga without the wedge, and she was perfectly fine. So you may find that you don't even need the wedge when using this modification for your Chaturanga. Your second modification is again a completely different pose. It's called knees, chest, chin. I always want to start with a chin, but it's actually knees, chest, chin. So what does that look like? You're going to go again from tabletop. You're going to have your hands mat width to create space for the neck and shoulders. Keep pressing the shins into the ground. You're going to bend the elbows towards the chest and slowly lower the chest down first. Your hips will stay up and your chin will hit. And then you'd move on from there. So again, that's your knee, chest, chin. So if you're wanting to slowly build up the strength for Chaturanga, it really does a great job because it does still work the arms. It just it's just not as intense. So again, shins pressing into the ground, bend the elbows towards your torso, and you're going to aim your chin and your chest. You're going to aim your chin in front of the fingertips and your chest right in line with your hands. And then you would move through to your next position. Your third modification is doing a modified chaturanga. So we are going into a chaturanga, but this time a modified version. So full chaturanga, you're in plank and you slide slightly forward and drop down to that hover position. For the modified, you drop the knees down and you just don't bend the elbows as far. So let's try that version. So again, this time though, instead of coming from tabletop, we're going to come from plank. That way our knees are going to be in the right position. So from tabletop, you're going to tuck your toes, straighten the legs, make sure that you gently tuck your tailbone so that your hips are in line with your ribs. You're going to drop the knees down, and as you'll see, your torso is going to be in an angled position from your knees all the way to the top of your head. As you exhale, because chaturanga, we always use our exhale as we go down, you're going to bend the elbows slightly, taking the chest forward, and then come back up. As you can see, I really didn't bend my elbows very much, but you can also tell that I am taking my weight, continuing to lean it forward into my fingertips, because you do want the elbows to line up with your wrist to make sure that we use the correct muscles and that we also don't put too much strain on the elbows and the wrists. So you're going to bend into that as you exhale, keeping those feet anchored, and come back up. And what do I mean by feet anchored? You're just going to continue to press the feet into the ground. That way they don't pop up. As soon as your feet pop up, your weight will fall forward and you're going to feel yourself face plant. And you don't want to face plant. So what if you want to still keep working in that modified chaturanga with the knees down and you want to start bending the arms further? What can you do? You can get your yoga blocks. So you're going to get one yoga block for each side, and your yoga block is going to be slightly inside where your hands are going to be. And when you place your hand down, you actually want your fingertips in line with the front of the blocks, and you can raise your blocks up pretty high if you want. You want to aim your shoulders for the blocks. So with the blocks from this position, your thumb is going to be in line with the front of the block. And then you're going to go from your plank, drop the knees, tuck the tailbone, exhale, lower the shoulders or the chest down to the block, come back up. All right, so that wasn't quite the right positioning. As you can tell, it kind of hit more of my armpit. So I'm going to take the block a little bit more forward so that my fingertips, so that the front of the block is in line with my fingertips. And we'll try that one more time. Aiming the shoulders and the chest for the block, so dropping the knees, elbows in, chest on the block. There we go. You can even take the blocks just a little bit further in until you find that point where the shoulders and the chest can just kind of rest on the blocks. And for some, that's still not quite comfortable because it doesn't feel right. You really can't rest there. That's more of a strengthening hold. What if you want more of a rest with using your blocks? You're going to take your blocks and place them long ways, but flat. This way, your chest is going to rest on the blocks. This is a great way to be able to give yourself a rest as you're learning how to do a full chaturanga using your modification with the knees down. So again, hands mat width, start off in your plank, drop the knees, elbows into the body as you slide forward so that your sternum hits the blocks. And so you get to rest here for just a moment if you want. Take some of the weight off of your hands if you want. You can also gently press your hands into the ground, kind of working some of the strength while the rest of your body is resting on the blocks. Keep pressing your feet into the ground. And then when you're ready, you're going to press up and back. And this is also a way that you can kind of strengthen and work into how to get the muscles of your arms working and stronger, is using blocks to rest your chest on. Because for chaturanga, you do want to be in that hover position where the elbow is in line with the wrist. So the wrist is at 90-degree angle, and then the forearm is actually is perpendicular to the forearm so that the elbow is in a 45 or is a 90-degree angle as well. So you have a 90-degree angle in the wrist and a 90-degree angle in the elbow. And that hover position takes quite a lot of strength of the legs, torso, and arms. So the third modification is using the yoga wheel. But this one isn't really one that you can really use in a yoga flow. This is more if you're wanting to learn how to do chaturanga from a plank position, but you know you're still going to have to rest the body on something. And so the wheel or a exercise ball really come in handy. So you're going to place your exercise ball or the yoga wheel kind of around where your torso is and where your hips are. So you're going to rest your hips on the wheel or the ball, and you're going to come into a plank position. And you can actually press your hips into the wheel or the ball and be able to slide your weight forward using your toes. So you can kind of work on that part of chaturanga, which is you push the feet to take your weight forward before you go into that hover position. So you're going to keep your hips pressing into the wheel so that your hips are in line with your chest. You're going to press your weight forward, and as you exhale, lower yourself down into a hover position, squeezing those elbows in, elbows bending, looking forward, and then inhale, come back up. As you can tell, this modification keeps your hips high as you lower down. So it really doesn't help you feel that hover position of everything straight in line, but it does help give you some modification if your strength is not quite there yet. So you can kind of feel some of the mechanics of the chaturanga without having to hold your whole entire body in that hover position. You get to work on pressing through the feet, the toes. You get to work on trying to take your weight forward over your fingertips. So you can kind of feel that. And then bending the arms as you kind of hover down in that hover position for the full chaturanga. So let me know how you find that modification. Again, it's not really something you can use in a flow, but it's something you can do if you're trying to learn how to do chaturanga. The next modification is using pillows or a bolster. And this you can do while you're in a normal yoga flow. So you're gonna take your bolster or your pillows and lay them long ways. That way, if you wanna continue through your flow, it's not gonna get in your way, or you can easily move it to the side if you need to. So you're gonna come into a tabletop and then plank position. You can press through your toes to lean forward into the fingertips, and you can just lower all the way down to your whole entire torso lands on the pillows or the bolster. And so as you can see, this is where you can work on that full chaturanga with your whole entire body in one line using the bolster or the pillows. And then what you'll just do is you can move through your up dog if you wish, or exhale, press back up through to plank, and then you can continue in working on that or working through your flow, because this can just stay exactly where it is as you work on chaturanga and up dog, because it can also be a modification for up dog, and then you can flow right into down dog without having to move it out of your way. The very last modification is using a tool I completely forgot to mention in the beginning of the video, and that is a yoga strap. That could be a strap that clips together like this one, or it can be a strap that has that double ring that you kind of slide the end through as you try to pull the strap tight. So a yoga strap is really good for a lot of different things, including how to help you with chaturanga. So what you want to do is you want to have the strap in a loop that is going to help you have your arms shoulder or mat width. So this is not quite there yet. I need to widen mine just a little bit more, but you don't want it so wide that you can't press against it. So you want to place your hands mat width, and if you can't open your arms out really far to get the hands mat width, then go ahead and open the circle just a little bit more for your strap, but you don't want it so wide that you can't press the arms against it. Okay, I think that's almost it. I think I'll just open it just a little bit wider. So let me just show you from the front. So this is about how wide you want your hands and your arms to be for that chaturanga. As you can tell, it's going to create space for the neck and shoulders so your shoulders don't scrunch up against the neck, causing some tension in the muscles there. So I'm going to move the tail of that strap out of the way. Hands mat width, tuck your toes into plank. You can do full plank or knees down plank. You can start with knees down plank first if you wish. What's going to happen as you lean forward and bend the arms, the strap is going to hold the chest this time. So you'll be here in Chaturanga, and then you can press back up, or you can press through to your upward dog. It's going to be harder to do upward dog with a strap because it's not going to allow your chest to move in front of the arms, which is best for upward dog. But this is a great way if you don't want to use the blocks. And again, you kind of want to use this strap all the way through a flow. You can do it. You can start with arms up for the upward salute. It might get in your way of your vision, but that's okay. And then you can fold forward, keep the strap around your arms, moving into flat back, then Chaturanga, and so on. You can keep that strap around the arms the whole entire time, or have it available for you to kind of put your arms into as you move in Chaturanga. When you're doing that full Chaturanga and from full plank, it's the same thing. Go moving from full plank, taking your weight forward, bending the elbows, and then you kind of got that shelf to kind of hold on to, help you balance, and then come back up. So again, it's a great modification so that you're able to learn the position that you want to be in without having to wear yourself out and feel those muscles shake from so much exertion. If I can say that word right. So I hope you found this video helpful in learning how to be able to do Chaturanga in your way, learning how to use a modification in your yoga flows so that no matter where you're at, what your strength level is, and what your mobility level is, you'll be able to accomplish Chaturanga and slowly over time build strength to be able to do the full version. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.